Welcome back and thank you for joining us. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's first session. Melissa Madigan. Melissa is the Associate Executive Director, Professional Affairs, the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy, NABP. She started with NABP in 1995 as the Professional Affairs Manager after graduating from DePaul University College of Law. Prior to that, she practiced pharmacy at the University of Illinois Hospital, Loyola University Hospital Cancer Center, and Dominic's Stores. Melissa is also the past president of the American Society for Pharmacy Law. Melissa's complete bio can be found on the Speakers tab in the left-hand column. I'd also like to introduce Dominic Leno. Dominic Leno is an NABP business analyst responsible for requirement gathering and verification, user acceptance testing, deployment coordination, and ongoing product, service support and maturity. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Madigan and Dominic Leno.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen now. Share and one. Okay. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate being able to give you a presentation on the work we've done related to the FDA compounding MOU. It's been about 2 years in progress, and we have another year to go at least. So we appreciate you wanting to know about this, and as always, we're always happy to answer any questions at the end of the session. Just regarding disclosures, I don't have any, so that's good. Learning objectives, they're all related to the MOU. What are the responsibilities of the state agencies that are signing the MOU? How is our NABP Information Sharing Network helping states meet the requirements outlined in the MOU? Define the types of information that will be entered into the Information Sharing Network. Identify how the Information Sharing Network determines when a pharmacy has distributed inordinate amounts of compounded drugs. I'm going to turn my video because I see I'm having some instability. I'll pop back on as soon as I can. Okay. Review the anticipated public health benefits of the Information Sharing Network, and define how, when and how the 5% limitation on distributing compounded drugs will apply. So just some background. This is information directly from the FDA's website. They mentioned that Section 503A of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act limits the distribution of compounded drugs outside of the state by a pharmacist, pharmacy physician located in a state that has not signed the MOU. And that limitation is 5% of its total prescription orders distributed. The MOU is an agreement between the boards of pharmacy or other state agencies and FDA. It addresses the interstate distribution of inordinate amounts of compounded drugs and complaint investigations by a state regulator relating to compounded products distributed outside the state. The FDA and NABP worked together to develop the MOU, which was required by Section 503A. We all, FDA and NABP, considered a key public health protection. It's intended to enhance communication and maximize federal and state resources for the oversight of compounded products. States can sign the MOU at any time. FDA received several requests to extend the period for states to consider signing before the FDA intends to enforce the 5% limit. NABP also did submit a request related to that. And then on August 9th of this year, they agreed to extend the period for 1 year. So they're not going to begin enforcing the 5% limitation until October 27th of 2022. What will boards that sign the MOU need to do? They're going to need to do just in a nutshell, 4 basic things. Investigate certain compounding pharmacy complaints, report certain compounding pharmacy and compounding physician complaints to FDA, report certain information about compounding physician offices, and identify and report to FDA certain compounding pharmacy data. Specifically, what information do they need to report? Well, they need to report the names of the pharmacies that are compounding human drug products. This is all regarding human drug products, no veterinary products, and distributing inordinate amounts of those products. And I've got a footnote below because we've gotten many questions about this. The distribution of inordinate amounts is merely a threshold for reporting. It's not a limit on the distribution of compounded products interstate. If a pharmacy, finds to be in their business plan to distribute all of their products interstate, that's perfectly fine. So in addition, the boards need to report complaints of serious adverse drug experiences or product quality issues related to, again, human drug products compounded by pharmacies and distributed interstate. And the term serious adverse experiences is defined in the MOU. They also need to report complaints of adverse experiences or quality issues related to products compounded by a physician and distributed interstate. And again, adverse experiences is defined, it's less severe. So they want more information related to complaints related to physicians. Whether or not they're going to be able to obtain them, that's a question that we need to work out, but that was the answer. In addition, they need to provide information relating to the distribution interstate of any amount of compounded products, of products compounded by physicians. So if a board of pharmacy becomes aware of a physician that's compounding human drug products, just shipping them out of state, any amount, the board has to, under the MOU, report that information to FDA. So what will the NABP Information Sharing Network do? Well, first of all, it provides a tool for states to report complaint information to the FDA. I just mentioned the need to submit information about complaints and the notifications. It also provides a tool for states to review compounding pharmacy data and, if needed, report it to FDA. More specifically, the system's going to be notifying boards about pharmacies who submitted data show that they're distributing inordinate amounts of compounded drug products interstate. It will require the Board of Pharmacy to review and approve the submission of that data prior to going to FDA. And that was a feature we added because we had many states that said, hey, we want to review this first. We don't want the system to automatically send it over. We want to be able to see what is going on. And then they click the button and it goes to FDA. So how are we building the information sharing network? What we're doing is we are adapting our existing NABP eProfile Connect data management system to add compounding data fields to facility profiles. It allows pharmacies to enter the data, and then boards will be able to review the data. They will also be able to upload documents if they want, like complaints or inspection forms. They don't have to, but it's a feature that they can do if they would like. In addition, boards will be able to indicate if the complaint information should not be shared with other boards, for example, due to legal limitations. We had several boards say, we can't share this information with other boards, and so there will be a feature that will block that information from being seen by other boards. So getting down to the nitty-gritty, what information will be collected from pharmacies? So again, regarding the distribution of human drug products that are compounded, it's going to be collecting information from the pharmacy for an identified calendar year. Right now, we're collecting information for 2019, 2020, When this year ends, we will add 2021 as an option to select. First of all, they let us know if they're participating in these 4 activities. So human drug compounding sterile, non-sterile, patient-specific, non-patient specific. If they're compounding human drug products, the number of prescription orders we will collect from them, the number of prescription orders that the pharmacy sent out of the facility, in state or out of state, the number of prescription orders that they dispensed at the facility, and then the system's going to add those 2 together and calculate a total number of prescription orders for compounded drugs sent out of the facility, which is the numerator for the calculation of inordinate amounts. Then the pharmacy will also insert the number of prescription orders for compounded products that they distributed interstate. The system will take that and then calculate whether or not they distributed inordinate amounts interstate. And I'll get to that a little more about that. In addition, we're going to be collecting from the pharmacies the number of prescription orders for sterile compounded drug products distributed interstate, the names of the states where the pharmacy is licensed, the names of the states into which the pharmacy distributed compounded products, and whether the compounded products are distributed without patient-specific prescriptions. Regarding inordinate amounts, what information specifically needs to be reported and when. So within 30 days of a board identifying that pharmacies distributed inordinate amounts, during an identified calendar year and upon approval by the board, I mentioned that they need to approve it first, the system will provide FDA with the aforementioned information. So all of the information, the data fields that I listed for you in the last few slides. In addition, the board will indicate whether they inspected for and found during their most recent inspection that the pharmacy was distributing compounded products without orders for individually identified patients. So when it comes to complaints about a pharmacy, what information needs to be submitted and when. Again, serious adverse drug experience or product quality issue. Product has to have been distributed outside the state. Then the board will enter the information listed here. So the name and contact information of the complainant, if that's available. And I've got a footnote here saying if the board's not allowed to reveal complainant information, the FDA considers that not available. So they don't have to insert that if it's not legal to do so in their state. They also need to name and address the pharmacy that's the subject of the complaint, as well as a description of the complaint, including this description of the product. And then the boards need to provide this data to FDA as soon as possible, but no later than 5 business days after receipt of the complaint. Then the board needs to provide to FDA its assessment of whether the complaint was substantiated, if that's available, and a description of the actions taken to address the complaint. And then they provide it. The timing of that is that they provide that after investigation. So notifying the FDA and notifications about physician information I just described. The boards provide FDA with the contact information of the complainant or the notifier, the name and address of the physician who is the subject of the complaint or notification, and a description of the complaint, including a description of the compounded drug product. So when does information have to be provided? Regarding the complaint information, it needs to be submitted no later than 5 business days after receipt. In addition, the board is obligated under the MOU to notify the state regulations. When it comes to submitting information about a physician that is compounding and shipping any product outside of the state, the board needs to notify them within 30 business days. And then also they must notify the regulator of conditions. So when it comes to how are we going to be doing that? How are we going to be collecting waste? First, we are collecting information through our pharmacy accreditation applications and the VPP inspection application. We will not be collecting it through our medical equipment program, however. The pharmacy will pay the accreditation and inspection application. A pharmacy can also go into their e-profile. If they already have one, they need to they just go into it and then add the data into the new data fields that we've added. Or if they don't have an e-profile, they can go in, set one up, and then insert the data. And there's no charge for this. And I bring that up because we had several stakeholders asking about how much is it going to cost, and it's part of the data. So we have started collecting this data earlier this year. As of September 23rd, we had 215 pharmacies that have provided compounding information. As you can see, we've got 23% performing sterile compounding, 47% performing non-sterile, and 30% performing both. How was this information obtained? We had 75% of the pharmacies submitting the information through an accreditation or an inspection application. And then we had 25% that voluntarily went into their e-profile and submitted. As I mentioned earlier, we've got data for 2019, 2020. We've got 87% providing data for 2019, 87 pharmacies providing data for 2019, and 211 providing data for 2020. 50% inordinate amounts threshold. Right now we have 3 states that have signed the MOU. I don't believe, and they're not listed here, so there may be a pharmacy that has submitted data that has been reported to FDA since September 23rd, but I'm not aware of any. So how can you learn more about this if you want to? We have a page on our website dedicated to the project. It's got background details. It's got a link to the MOU. It's got an FAQs page to FDA FAQs. MAP MOU decisions. So just like what I mentioned, we've got 3 states signed, and I think it's 3 states. One is either in process or it's signed, and then we have several that are close, and we've kind of categorized them. No, they can't sign it. They're considering it. They just need to do one more thing, that kind of thing. So you'll get an idea of how the states are moving if you go to the map. And then I've got a slide deck that's somewhat similar to this on that webpage. So now we're going to have a demonstration of the system. I'm going to stop sharing my my screen, and Dom is going to take over.
Thanks, Melissa. So let me share my screen here. So you heard Melissa kind of go through the different areas that this project touches on. And I'll share the first screen here, just the most recent thing that Melissa was speaking about, the FDA Compounding MOU project FAQ page. This is on our main website. You don't have to log in to see this. And of course, we'll share this link and I'll show you where it's accessible once you log into the profile as well. So the first part of the demonstration and the bulk of the demonstration, and let me go back while we kind of walk through this, is going to be looking at how the pharmacy enters the information on our website or on the application. So if you're familiar with the website, if you have an individual e-profile, you're probably familiar with this screen here where you're going to click on individual or business customers tile. And then you'll enter your username. And I have a test user here for us. Now, you can use the same email address account that you use for your individual account, or you can separate them. So if you have a separate email address that you want to use for managing the business profiles that you might be looking at, then that's possible as well. You can see here in this one, we just have business e-profiles attached, and you can see under the business services, we have plenty of tiles that the user can go through. For the FDA MOU, all of that's going to be driven through the business e-profile tile here. So click there. And if you have one or multiple, in this case, we have multiple that are showing up here because there's multiple linked to this user account. If you're managing multiple locations, for any reason, that could be a potential scenario. Or if you don't have any connected to your account, you can see this request business e-profile button up here. That'll take you through the pathway where you can send us a request for your business e-profile. It does take us maybe about a day sometimes. I think right now the turnaround is less than a day. So we want to check our system and make sure that there's no duplicates, that there's no address mismatch or anything like that. So it won't be immediate when you come onto the website if you're requesting a new profile. It'll take about half a day and upwards of maybe a day and a half at the most. And you'll get email and notifications about that once that's processed. So we'll go into this profile here. And if you logged into the system before, you might be familiar with the business profile dashboard. So plenty of areas here to look through, but for the purpose of today, we're going to want to focus on compounding details. Obviously, you have a bunch of other items here that you can look at for details of the facility, or the pharmacy, but we'll just go into compounding details to focus on what Melissa was referring to. And of course, if there's any questions about that, please do bring it up. I'll be happy to answer any. So here you can see the details about the FDA MOU compounding project, and then you have this learn more link that brings us to that same page we saw at the beginning. So if you needed to reference anything, you can definitely just quickly click on this link and get to the information that you might need. So in this instance, the pharmacy has not submitted any responses to us. And as Melissa mentioned, we're collecting the past 2 years as of right now. So 2019 and 2020 are available for us to select as a set of responses, or as a range of responses from Jan 1 to end of the year, of course. And then once we select that, you can see the information pop up here. And it's pretty simply, what type of compounding activity was performed by the pharmacy, select here. So you select one of these, whether it's sterile, non-sterile, or both. So let's say we did both. And then the calculation that Melissa was referring to is actually happening in these first 3 questions. So that equation about the inordinate amount will be calculated through these questions here. And it's this number here divided by these first 2 questions. So this 1,000 divided by 2,000, the sum of these 2 questions, that'll get us our inordinate amount calculation. In this case, it'll be right at 50%, 1,000 divided by 2,000. And then of course here, however, your facility lines up with these questions. I'll just go through for the purpose of the demo. And then once you're finished, you click save. And that's pretty much it from the user side. Now there is one other area where you can enter this, as Melissa mentioned, which is through an application. So when you're doing an application, if you mark that you've compounded or performed compounding in the past calendar year, we will throw the same page into the application, the same exact page with the same exact information, so that you can do this during an application as well, whether it's for inspection or accreditation. If you've marked that you've done compounding in the past calendar year, we're going to ask you this during the application as well, so that you can provide this information there. Now, if we wanted to just review the answers we just submitted, we could do that. These are not editable from the customer end, but say you've delegated this responsibility to someone in your group to go and enter these answers, and they mistyped or misunderstood or put a wrong answer somewhere, we do have the ability to update those, but it's not available from the user side, essentially. So as Melissa explained, now, once this is provided, every night our system checks to see if there's an inordinate amount threshold met. So if the resident state is participating with this program, what we're going to do when that inordinate amount trigger is met is we'll send an email to that state board saying, hey, you guys should look at this. It looks like there might be an inordinate amount of compounded medication being distributed here, or dispensed. Distributed interstate, sorry. And this is a preview of that email. So not everything is going to match. For the purpose of time and demonstration, we're simulating probably a 5-day turnaround here between input to review and then final delivery of the report. So we're simulating a few things here. So not everything's going to match up with what we were just looking at, but you'll get the basic gist that this is what we send to the state board that's participating and says, hey, again, it looks like this is something you should look at. Log in here to do so, and generate the report if needed. And so in that aspect, what happens is the state board will log into their system, which is our eProfile Connect system. And that's going to look a little bit like, I'm going to change the window for us. Again, this is a more kind of blown out version since we're simulating the state board responses here. I'll log into what they would potentially see. My apologies. So you can see here, we've kind of just put the responses back into the system, just another view of them for the state board to see. And we flagged the 50%, that threshold trigger, as being marked. Now they'll also have a button here that says email to FDA, and it gives them an explanation of what the inordinate amount is if they need reference. One of the bells and whistles we're not seeing is that email FDA button. But that's essentially what the state board would see. And then they have the choice to email the FDA the report or not. So let me go back to the other screen and show you what that report looks like. So that report, if generated, will go to the FDA, and the FDA will get an email that looks like this. And essentially, same type of general information about the business, except with an attachment of the compounding details. So let me see if I can actually get the same data that we just entered to generate here. So again, I'm kind of taking you behind the scenes here. This is all stuff that happens behind the scenes and that we're attaching organically to the emails and notifications. And yeah, I think I can say this is a PDF. Well, for all intents and purposes, you guys can see the report here and kind of what it entails. And it's basically just a readout of the responses that were provided in a more formal report. I don't want to keep switching screens on you guys. So this is definitely something that'll print in the PDF. And again, you can see from the email here, an older version. Yeah, Chrome will bring it up. This is the pharmacy complaint, actually. I think, hold on one second. Let's do this one. So you can see here the report being generated. And then as Melissa touched on, there's also a complaint information sharing that can be done through this eProfile Connect system. So again, we're looking at the state board view now. And if I wanted to provide that complaint information, I can come into the Information Sharing Network. And then we can just go through the entry pieces here. You can see it has a drop down for who's reporting this. So if you're getting the information from another board, that board can process it that way. You can upload a file with this. Again, as Melissa said, these email name and phone fields are all optional. We have some notes here where they can provide detail, reference, whether or not the complaint was substantiated, action was taken or not. And then, as Melissa said, this is a required question. Should other state boards of pharmacy be able to see this complaint? We'll just put no for this particular demonstration. We'll just upload a test file here. And so then we can go into and update any of these fields as well if needed. The button that would also appear here, again, one of the bells and whistles that since we're simulating this over that few day period, that you're not seeing is the email FDA button.
You're seeing the notification.
Email. Oh, still the notification. Okay. Thank you for chiming in. Appreciate that. Let's do this.
Yeah. Of course. Mm-hmm.
Now you're probably seeing the complaint information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bring back up the form really quickly so you guys can see what I was speaking about. The form information here, reporting entity is what I was referring to in the dropdown. The file attachment. Again, this is all user capability on the state board side, so nothing that I think anyone on the conference might be accessing here. Again, all of that is the front end that we were looking at the start. But again, you can see down here, here's the complaint we were just entering as I was speaking without sharing the screen. It can be viewed, it can be changed if necessary, if the visibility needs to be updated, for other boards to see it. And again, like I said, the email FDA button that would appear here, since we're simulating this, one of those bells and whistles isn't appearing. But I can show you that report. So let's switch back to the other browser. And here's an example of that compounding complaint report. Notice of complaint re-compounded human drug products. So if we had hit that email FDA button, this is the email that would go out to the FDA from the state board saying, hey, there was a following pharmacy complaint subject regarding adverse drug experiences or product quality issues. And that attachment, that report is generated here for the FDA to review. And again, that's only if the state's participating. So everything that we saw at the front end here, where we were entering compounding details in this voluntary path or during an application, only if your resident state board is participating will they get a notification if the inordinate amount is triggered. And then it is ultimately their decision whether or not to share it with the FDA. I believe within 30 days, Melissa, is that one, or is that 5 days as well?
Boy.
Yeah, I think that one I can reference. 30 days. This one's 30 days. Yeah, so for the notice of inordinate amounts, it's 30 days that they have to respond by and notify the FDA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Now that I remember.
So I know we kind of zoomed through that, but if you guys have any questions, whether it's about the front end application where we're doing the business e-profile monitoring, if you're needing some answers about how to create an e-profile, I'd be happy to answer those as well, or navigate through the system. But that's the gist of it. Essentially, user enters the data, our system checks for the inordinate amount threshold, and then if the state board's participating, the state board takes it from there and processes the report to the FDA. And then with the complaint, the state board always has that option to enter the complaint into our information sharing network. And that's that. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks, Dom. Could you stop sharing? Because I think we have a few more minutes and I'd like to show our webpage on this. All right. Okay, can you see my webpage, the NABP webpage?
Not yet, Melissa.
Okay, all right. There.
That's coming.
How's that?
It started, but we don't see it yet.
Okay.
There it is. Go ahead.
Anyhow, this is okay. Good. Okay. So we have, as I mentioned, a webpage on this, and what one would do is go to members and FDA MOU or Compounding MOU project, and this is where I said we've got background, links to FDA. Here's the map I mentioned about where the states are with it. Yes, so we do have 3 states that have signed the MOU, and we've got several more in process. Close to the lighter sort of, well, the darker pink here is getting close, and then many of the others are still in the consideration stage. This is information really for the states here. We've got an information sheet regarding the states' obligations. We have a link to the actual MOUs that are signed that FDA has on their website. I know we have an FAQ page. Oh, here's ours. And so we have information about, the data that we are sharing, that everyone is sharing. Board investigations, pharmacy participation, audits. We are going to be auditing the data as part of our obligation to FDA. We haven't started that yet, but that's in our future plans. And then just more information about the MOU itself. So that's really all we have. We're happy to answer any questions that may have come up.
Hi, Melissa. Just looking in our chat, we don't appear to have any questions coming in from the audience at this point. If you have, just a reminder to everybody watching today, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll pose them to our speakers after their presentation. Here's one that's come in. How often will the NABP audit the data?
Our obligation to FDA is one time. So that is part of the pilot project we're working on. If you are an applicant to one of our programs, whether it be the VPP inspection or the some sort of pharmacy accreditation program, and you submit data, a review of that, an audit effectively of that data takes place during the accreditation inspection or the VPP inspection. So that will be audited whenever somebody applies. But if somebody goes in voluntarily, is not an applicant, inserts the data, there is a chance that you're going to be audited. It's not definitive. We are offering, if we select one of those pharmacies, we are offering them the opportunity to get a VPP inspection for no cost, and that's valuable because many states require it for non-resident pharmacies. It's got a value of about $4,000, So if we audit you, we'll do a full DPP inspection, and you'll be able to receive that, not an accreditation, but that the inspection itself for no charge.
Thank you, Melissa. I have another question here. I'll bring Dominic up here as well, so we have both of you. How many years of data is a pharmacy required to enter once MOU is signed and states on board?
So that's going to be a state-by-state decision. The states that we have talked to we have one state that's on the verge of signing right now. And if they sign before the end of the year, they're going to require their pharmacies to report for 2022 and on. So they won't have to report for 2021. So it won't be till 2023 that they'll have to report. But again, that's going to be a state-by-state decision. We didn't know what states were going to decide. That's why we started at 2019, just in case they wanted to get this information retroactively. They're probably not going to do that, but it was something we thought we would. It also is a way to test why we have 2019.
Thank you, Melissa. We have a question here from Bianca. It was my understanding the judge's decision regarding the lawsuit demanded the MOU back to the FDA, and it was on hold until that lawsuit was final. Is this not correct?
I'm not quite sure what FDA is doing. I believe that they are in the process. I know that they're in the process of determining their next steps and where they are with it. We are not part of that lawsuit or bound in any way. So we are continuing on with our obligation under the pilot project to develop the system. To be honest, it's almost fully developed, and we are, they have not asked us to not move forward. So we are, and we've also had states, we asked them that have signed, do you want to not be connected to the system anymore? And they have told us they still want to be connected to the system. So it sounds like if we get this information that needs to be reported under the MOU, that they're going to use the system to send it. But again, I don't know. And I don't believe any of them have submitted any data yet.
Wonderful. Thank you. Last call for any questions. Please put them in the chat for this session. It is so great to see this this content come out and to get us started here. Thank you, Melissa and Dominic. Thank you so much for everything that you have done here. So thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it and appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Anytime.
Okay. Take care. Thank you.
Well, thank you again. So you're looking for a CE claim code. It is MOU. So our MOU is the CE claim code for this session.